Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we're back out at the farm and we're going to carry on from our last video where we built the mount, installed it in the ground, and installed the post. Today we're going to build the actual solar tracker system, but we're not going to put the solar panels on just yet because you need to have the power set up with the solar panels so that it can come back to a neutral position in a windstorm. So today we're going to actually just go through all the details of installing the solar panel mount, and then in the next video we'll actually install the solar panels. Okay, time to play ball or chicken. Which one you want to play with? All right, chicken it is. What do they want to do? You confused now? Bring me that chicken. That chicken, there's something. Playing hard to get. There seems to be some little bit of packaging differences, so you can tell they've improved how they pack things. It looks really much more updated, like everything looks better. So not a little bit finer finish. So they're constantly improving, you can tell that. That's how I picked this out.
What is that?
Comes with a compass. It works flat. Well, let's see what they say. If I got it right using my phone. Pretty daggum right. The phone ain't. It's pretty neat. Little nice little compass. It's not cheap either. It's a pretty decent little compass. Feels pretty good. I'm keeping that. Thank you. That's just part of the kit now, I guess. That's another little perk, you know. People make assumptions that they have a, you know, you got to put this in using a compass. That's all the hold downs for the solar panels. This is a short actuator. This is a long actuator. So what we need now are the pins and bolts. So here's the main bolt. So even since we've put ours in just, what, 4 months ago, the manual has improved. This is a whole new manual. Really makes, it's got good pictures. I like it. Good job. That was one of my complaints on my last video, was that there was some discrepancies in the manuals. This is way better. So one small improvement I would say is to where they're talking about putting this cross member on here. It doesn't have the east, west, north, south. So we know this because we have 2 of them over there already. This should say south right here, and that would give people a reference point, because right now this seat that has 4 bolt holes on one end and not any on the other. They can put this on 180 degrees out, and then like after they've already put it on, they have to take it all apart again. So that's something that would be really, really good to have. So here's another upgrade. This uses a much heavier duty bolt, and they also added some additional supports in the actual mount. This seems to be a lot heavier, where the other one was just a pin, and then you put a cotter key through it to hold it in place. So I see lots of upgrades. Lots of they're listening to what people say. There's a hole right there. So this has 4 holes. This is B part. It has 4 holes. The 4 holes part goes towards the north. These eyelets go up, and that's where your next section will go. They have put in a solid bushing all the way across, and they've also put solid bushings in here, which is a big upgrade from the previous version. We've not had any problems with ours, but I've read where like some of the places out west where they have some horrendous continuous winds, that it becomes an issue of wear. And ours are not really showing any wear here. So I guess it's probably dependent upon where you're at. Get those timing in over here. Let's go ahead and put this on. Again, the 4 hose goes to the north side. And the eyelets go up. Don't crank down on this, just tighten it up, tighten up the lock nut, or the lock washer locks into place, because you could feasibly pull these through and cause metal fatigue. Just tight's good enough. All right, so we don't, this one here is the C structure, and it has holes on both ends, so it doesn't matter which way you put this one on. This one's really, really important that these 4 holes go to the north side. Let me do that around the other way. Someone made a comment on our last video saying that since this thing is going to primarily be aimed to the south, it would be better if I put the heads of the pins to the north. That way gravity would not be pulling against those little Carter keys all the time. And at the time I dismissed it, didn't think much about it because it was already put together, and it's probably, the odds are like astronomical that it would matter, but since we're doing it again. So this is the same thing that happened last time on the other kit. So I've seen a lot of improvements, but they're sending these pins through here. These pins are stainless steel. The Carter keys they send are stainless steel. However, these Carter keys are too big and they will not fit through these pins. So you will have to end up finding some stainless steel Carter keys, or what I did was split these in half and just put one leg through. Even that was difficult because the simple fact is that these are really good quality, very stiff. And these are even different than before. Even a single leg will not go through. So you are going to have additional Carter keys. All right, because I live in the world of tractors, I have an assortment of hairpins in my truck. And that will work just fine. So be aware when you buy the kit, it could possibly be that the Carter keys that come with them are not the right kind. But these right here will hold just perfectly.
My microphone failed right at this point, and I'm going to just go ahead and do my very best to talk you through what I was saying at this point. Here you can see that they put in these heavy duty spacers, and this was not in the old system. This is another upgrade that they've done to really improve the quality. They put them in not only the bar that I'm mounting now, but the main bar that I'm screwing it through. So what this does, it keeps, when you tighten the nuts down, it keeps it from crushing the square tube. Each iteration of this solar tractor just gets better and better with each time. They're really listening. This is going to be hard to explain, but I'll do my best. These both I'm pointing at right now, or these nuts, are inset into this bar, and they will need to go on the westward facing side once you mount these on the top. So pay close attention as I do this, and it will make sense. This is where the actuator mounts. So bear with me just another second here. We realize our mic failed at some point here, and we get our new mics in and continue on with this. I think me and Tanya can pretty much accomplish anything together. We're a pretty great team. You can see here that I already had my box of hairpins out, and they work so easy. I went ahead and changed them out. So right here where there's the hole was punched through from the factory, there's a little bitty burr right here, and that's catching. So I'm going to go take a piece of sandpaper and knock that off. So this is where we really get into some of the improvements. On the previous version, you had to wire the controller to the actual actuators, and now they have these plug-and-play connectors, and they're matched male and female. You can't put them in the wrong place. They're waterproof. It just makes it so much easier. Right out of the box, plug and play, no issues.
Big upgrade. Big time upgrade.
This is the solar sensor that I'm working on right now, and you can see that it's already pre-wired in too, and that makes it so much nicer. Comes with really clear instructions on the tab.
It's already wired right.
If you watched our previous install, we had to wire it, and also the directions made it for the wrong hemisphere. This come perfect out of the box.
Good. I like that. It's already wired. You don't have to fight the wiring. Big boat. Got me a self-tapping screw. So this is the same thing we did before on the other two solar trackers we have. And I was concerned that they might not get enough wind to actually function. But up to this point, they have been pretty much flawless. So I'm going to go ahead and redo exactly what I did before. Really need an extension with this, but it'll be fine. I really like that all you have to do now is just hook up this wind meter. The previous version, you had to hook up a bunch of these wires and they were complicated and the directions were not clear. Actually, I think the directions were wrong. Now you really can't mess it up, and I've already tested it by pushing the buttons, and it's east is east and west is west, so they got it right. This is our excess right here. We'll zip tie that back. It's going to go through this waterproof. So this is the wire that goes to the wind meter, and this is the nut that comes off of here. We're going to go ahead and put this on. It simply goes through the nut, and then one of them has a G and the other one has an N1, or it could be IN. I don't know, so it doesn't matter. On the board here, it's got G and IN, so I guess that's going to be N. I really don't know what that means, if it's an electrical term or just means the source power or the source in. So I've got a little small screwdriver here. You're going to need one of these. And this is the hardest, really this is probably the most technical part of the whole thing. So it's really, this new system, the way they wire it up is pretty easy. So I got the N1 on the top, or the IN, and the ground is on the bottom. See if I can get them through. Oh, there they went. They both slid in at the same time. I got a good seat. Now it's time to tighten these up. Everything, the quality has stepped up. This is probably the third iteration of this. You can see the quality is quite a bit better. This is the third iteration. The first iteration, there was lots of complaints on. The second iteration was good, but you didn't. These other wires weren't pre-wired. You had to wire them yourself, and there was a lot of confusion and a lot of things that could go wrong. So with this right here, it's really nice. I get to hook up to that one wire, and then we'll run this little nut up, and this will, once we tighten this down, it'll waterproof this connection. There we go. Now that's the end of the electric, and we'll just have to we'll have to tidy up all the wires, and then I think we're ready. So this is going to be one of those stories of don't do as I do. So don't use your impact gun on these, because if you crank down on them, you can definitely crack this plastic housing. This is really meant more for a screwdriver, but I don't have a screwdriver here, so I'm going to set my impact on low and barely squeeze it. I love the settings on this. You can set it on low, and it has a variable speed trigger. I really like my Hercules tools. I've grown to trust them. Now I'm going to do is use it as a screwdriver now. Put it in the And I can actually feel it when it starts tightening up a little bit. Perfect. What are you doing, boy? Got a tough old life, don't you? So this wire right here goes to power the whole unit. And I got this little 12-volt battery. Now I will caution you that generally on 12-volt automotive, you have a red wire, which is your power, and a black wire, which is your ground. This particular unit, it has the black wire is your power and your blue wire is your ground. Don't know why. They didn't really ask me. That's just the way it came. Put the black on black. Now this thing is working. If we'll step back, you should go through a cycle, and it's not set right, but we know that it's tracking the sun, which there is no sun today, which just makes it not really much fun to show this video. So right now we're going to teach you how to program the tracker, and I've got a temporary battery here. We will eventually put in a permanent power source for this, which will be an additional solar panel and a little small battery, probably this battery, in a container down here. Right now, let's go ahead and show you how to program this. So now we're going to talk about how to set this up. You just push the set button if you want to manually move it around. So push the set button once really quickly. And now you have control of moving the solar panel. And this is important, like when you're going to do maintenance, like you're going to clean it. When you get through, so we can move it around. When you get through, just push the quit button and it goes back to automatic mode. The next section is going to be push the set button and hold it down. Now you'll notice right here that it'll go into a set screen. You can hold it down, then it went into the set screen. This is generally, it'll look something like this. To work through the menu, it's the west and east, so you're just paging left or paging right. And then to actually make changes, it's going to be the north and south buttons. All right, now we're going to talk about wind safety and nighttime storage. So this system is not what I would call like a super smart system. It's very ingenious, but it's not. It doesn't have GPS tracking. It has no idea of where it's at in the world. So you have to assume that if this spins really fastly and tells the system that, hey, there is a storm, the wind is blowing too fast, we need to go back to the safe mode. You always have to assume that the system is all the way in the most westerly aiming, I guess is what we'd say. And the reason being is you have no idea what time of day that the wind's going to blow really, really hard. You always have to assume that the panels are facing the farthest west when a storm comes in. The reason I say that is it doesn't really matter if it's aimed straight up or if it's west or if it's east. You still have to assume that the system is all the way to the west, because this is not a smart system. It's based totally upon time, and you don't know what time of day that the wind might pick up. So what I'm saying is you got to do a test on it, and right now it's all the way to the west. We're going to go ahead and start. Mark. Should take roughly 30 seconds, 34 seconds to get all the way to the east. You have to time it each one. Be careful not to get any of these pinch joints. Okay, it took me roughly 30 seconds, so I'm gonna go ahead and go with the 34 seconds that comes to the factory. Now, right now, it's all the way in the most northern position. Now, one other thing to mention is these actuators have limiters built into it, so it doesn't matter if you're halfway and it still goes to the 34 seconds down. It'll just time out and continue the 34-second count, and then when the 34-second count is done, it'll move to the next movement. So you need these numbers. How long does it take to go from the farthest west to the farthest east? So ours is 34 seconds. So before we move on to the next section, we need to know how long it takes to come from the farthest east to flat. So right now we're going to go back to the west.
12 seconds. So what this whole system is doing, I know this is so complicated, but it's really not. This is really it's really easy once you understand it. You have to assume that it's always facing fully west, and that gives the system enough time that when it's facing fully west, that it will go all the way back to the fully east, and then it'll know where it's at, and it'll come back 12 seconds to the flat. So that's basically what we're doing when it goes into storm, or when you have a wind alarm. Now this is for each axis. So right now we just figured out that it's 34 seconds to the east, and then it'll go back 12 seconds to the west, and that'll be flat on this axis. Now we got to figure out the other side. Now I have it all the way in the northern position, and I think we have to figure out, we have to assume that it's all the way in the southern position. Now we've got our first axis set. Now we have to set the second axis. We need to know how long it's going to take to go from its most southern position back to full north, because full north is flat. So we only have to, on the second one, we only have to know the one setting. So let's go from Mark. That's about 22 seconds. I'll be okay with that. All right, now we're going to go into the settings. Now, how do you get into the settings? If you push it one time again, you can move the panels. If you hold it down, you just have to hold it down, you'll see the screen change. Now we're in the settings. Now we have, to rotate through scroll through the menus, it's just east-west, which basically is like turning a page. So that's a way to think about that. Right here. All right, east, west, wait times. We're going to move past that and go to wind. All right, now we're talking about wind. This is when the wind alarm goes off. How many seconds do we need it to move towards the east? Again, you always have to assume that it's all the way in the most westerly facing. So we've already set it to 34 seconds. That's what we had. If you want to change this, let me go ahead and show you. You can bump this up and down if you feel like yours, maybe, because it's 30 seconds is probably fine, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a couple extra seconds to make sure that it's fully moved to the east before we make our westerly flat move. So now we've got that set. We're going to move to the next. We're going to push east and go up to winds to the west. Now what this is, again, is once the wind alarm happens, the first thing that's going to happen, it's going to move all the way to the east. And then the second thing that's going to happen after it runs through that 34 seconds, it's going to go now back to the flat center. And you have to tell it how many seconds does it take to get from the full easterly facing to flat. And we've already punched that in as 12. Again, if you wanted to change that, you can always bump it up and down. I've already set it at 12. So the next setting is going to be our wind to the north. We already know that it's about 22 seconds to come from the full southerly setting all the way up to flat. And this is where don't let this second one complicate you. We already got it set at 22 seconds, and again, you can push up and down and tweak this out, but we got it set at 22 seconds. When you move to the next one, you still have a wind alarm for the south. Well, because this doesn't, some systems could go way over. This particular system it can only go flat. Once you get to the full northerly position, that is flat. So you don't have to worry anything. You'll always zero out your wind to the south. That's just a given. And then when you get through with that, you just push quit, and it saves, and now your wind settings are saved. The next thing we're gonna do is set up how fast this thing kicks off for wind speed. What I mean by that, the alarm. There's an alarm. So if this thing, as this little cup spins, or this wind vane spins, it increases voltage. The faster this spins, the higher the voltage is. And that's how it tells the system how fast the wind is going. What we're going to do now is go in. I want to demonstrate this. We're going to go in and set this up. Hold the set button down. Now we're in there. And let's go sunshine limit, wind speed limit. Right now I've got it set at 0.03 volts. Now we're probably going to be running somewhere along the lines of 0.8 and not 0.03. So this is very, very low. I'm going to save this, and it's going to go out, and then I'm going to start spinning this with my hand. So right now, because I've got it set so low, I should be able to spin it with my finger and put it into safety mode. Right now it's going to track the sun. Let's let it do it. Let's let it track the sun. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and spin it. I'm going to tell it that the wind's blowing. All right, I just kicked it into safety mode. Now what it's going to do now is, like I told you before, it's going to turn 34 seconds to the east. But because it was already mid, it's just going to sit here for 34 seconds, timing out. It's got a limiter. It's not burning anything up. Once that 34 seconds is done, it's going to go back up to. You hear the beeping that tells you it's in the. All right, now it's 34 seconds has passed. Now it's going to go back up to the flat zone or safe zone. Basically, it's turning it into a wing and not a sail. Did pretty much perfect. It'll try to go towards the north. Right now it's on that timer right now going to the north, but it's already to the north, so nothing's going to happen. And it's pretty much going to sit here until the time that we set counts down. Gives you a code here of T7 locked out. I mean, it's in safety mode right now for the wind. And that's how it gets back to the wind. That's the two things you can set up for the wind. All right, we're going to move on to the next thing. Hold the set button down. Takes us back into the set menu. Now we're back into the set menu. Now we have the east-west wait time. Now what I want you to think about this is, you can set how sensitive you want the solar panel to be. It's like you can have it set on 15 seconds, and every 15 seconds it'll look to see where the sun's at and move a little bit. It'll move a little bit. What that does is it really runs your battery down and makes the system a lot less efficient. Kind of look at it like this: about 15 degrees in the sky as the sun moves, your panels are still at their peak efficiency. So don't have right now I've got it set at 121 seconds. So every 121 seconds, the system will look to see where the sky or where the sun's at, and it'll adjust. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to bump that up to probably, I'm going to bump it up to about 300 seconds. There we go, 296, 297, 299. So what that's going to do is it's not going to constantly bump. It'll sit there for 300 seconds, and then it'll look where the sun's at, and then it'll decide if it needs to make a move again. If you have your seconds really, really low, you're just wasting your battery power and wearing your system out, because every time that thing moves, it's a little bit of wear. So the next section we're going to go is our north-south wait time, and again, the same thing we're going to do there. We're going to go ahead and bump that up to 300 seconds. I see people bumping them up to 600 seconds. I think you can bump it up to 1,000 seconds. 298, 299, 300. This is where you can play around, and I guess it's probably gonna be different to where you're at in the world. It's gonna have variables depending on where you're at. So right now we've been using 300 seconds. Our system doesn't move constantly. Every 300 seconds it'll look basically maybe every other cycle it actually moves. So the next thing we're going to look at is, let's see, wind to the east. We've already taken care of that. Wind to the west. We've already taken care of that. That's our wind. And when you see wind, that means the wind alarm. Wind to the south. We're taking care of that. Now wind lock time. This is important. People get greedy. So what I do is I have my system, when the wind kicks up, it probably means it's going to be a very windy day. I'll go ahead and set my system up where it will go flat and stay flat for roughly 5 or 10 minutes. So you're still going to be getting some solar when it's flat. So So you're not completely becoming, completely inefficient. It's still going to get some solar. So right now I've got it set at 600. That's the way it comes from the box. I'm going to run this dude up to 1,000 seconds. I think it's 999. I would rather my system be safe. There's 700. 970, 980, all right, 995. I think it only goes to 999. Yeah, 999. So to wrap this up on the wind, we have our wind set at 999 seconds. That will, if it's a very windy day or a day that's got really high gusts, we don't want this thing to be constantly tracking the sun. The wind meter set it off, it goes back to flat, then turn around a few minutes later and go back to tracking the sun, and then constantly going back and forth on a windy day. Generally, if you have a windy day, it's going to be windy for all day. So it's just the way I've found it to be the best is just to set the wind lock time at 999 seconds, and that keeps your system from constantly moving around during the windy day. It's not really worth risking your panels and system. It's just better to do it this way. So now let's talk about the sun low delay. The sun low delay means how bright the sun is. So obviously in the evening it's going to track all the way, on a sunny day it's going to track all the way to the west, and then when the sun goes down it will wait 600 seconds, and then it'll come back to the completely flat for the night. And that's where the sleep is, in the flat position. That way if in the middle of the night the wind kicks up or anything, it's still in the flat position. Also, the reason it's so important for it to have 600 seconds of delay is that if a dark black cloud comes over and it blocks the sun out for a little bit, if you have it set too quickly, it will go back to sleep mode for the night. So it's really important to keep that 600 seconds. Pretty much if you do 600 seconds, you're going to be fine. Now the next thing is your sun low to the east. This is basically just like the wind. So you want to set your sun low to the east the same as you do your wind low to the east, because it's the same exact settings. Again, sun low to the west, same exact setting, 12 seconds. Sun low to the north, 22 seconds. Again, same as the wind. Everything on this portion is going to be the same. Sun low to the south, 0, because again it's already all the way fully extended. It doesn't need to go to the south to be in the safe mode. All right, recovery time, I put 60 seconds. I want 60 seconds. If something's triggered, I want 60 seconds before it even looks again for any anomalies. I just put that there. You can put it however you want to. Precision, 0.05 volts. Basically what that means is that, like for this wind meter, it counts every 0.05 volts. So that every 0.05 volts, it changes, it clicks another notch up in importance. So the next section is wind speed limit. Right now I've got it set on 0.03 volts because that is what I was able to do this with my finger and spin it around for you guys for a demonstration. I'm going to run mine up to 50 volts. Now we're going to push quit, and you'll see save. And now it's doing its countdown. And we'll step out of the way, and it should start tracking the sun. Woohoo! 60 seconds on the dot. So in my haste to make this video, the prior units did not have this sticker, and I did not realize that and notice it, that it has what they consider the preset times right here already for cloudy night, and then tracking. It already has the preset times right here. Mine's 34, 12, 22, and then 0, and theirs is 34, 11, 20, 0, which would probably be pretty close. All right, I'm really excited about this system. The fact that they've really listened to us and they put these nice connectors on it. The third generation box here is really easy to hook up. The first one the second generation that we had,
It works perfectly, but the directions were a little bit iffy. This one I took it out of the box, plugged the wires up, and it just worked. It was pretty much preset from the factory with all these settings, but it's cool because they went ahead and put the actual settings on a sticker on the front. They also gave you a little QR code you can scan and have that information. Listen, I appreciate you watching our channel. God bless, have a great day.